Hey, everybody. My name is Jody Giannakopoulos. I'm an Adult Services Associate at Addison Public Library in Addison, Illinois. And I am fortunate enough to have Chef Roberto Pérez from Urban Pilón in Chicago here with us tonight for Caribbean Cook Along. Been waiting a while for this, and this is the second time we have had the good fortune of having Roberto show us how to make amazing food. Tonight is no exception to how great it was. Last time when we made tostones with camarón and Caribbean salad, tonight we're going to have like a beans and pumpkin stew. And I'm going to let Roberto do the introduction for that, what we're going to be making, along with coconut rice and coconut custard. I will allow proper pronunciation to come from the chef, but it is dynamite. I was so excited when we worked together to get an idea of what would be seasonal and appropriate for this time of year, and of course, comfort food. So without further ado, I do welcome Roberto, and I would ask him to just please tell us a bit about himself. He's a man of many hats, and I know he's humble, but he should be so proud of all that he does. So without further ado, again, hi, Roberto.
Hey, Jody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Addison Public Library, for having me once again. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you. I do see some of my friends online, which I'm always happy to see. Today, we're going to be making tembleque, which is a coconut custard, and I think it comes from the name tembleque, probably comes from the name temblar, to means to shake, to tremble, and so it kind of has like this certain type of texture to it, and so it's called tembleque, and it's coconut custard. We're also going to be making rice with coconut milk, and we're also arroz con coco. And then we're also going to make a stew, some stew beans. And that would be, we would call that habichuelas guisadas in Puerto Rico. And so you could definitely be more ambitious. So you can crack open a coconut, and we'll kind of go through that. And you could actually do dry beans if you want, and we'll go through that. But you can also just be in the hustle of the inner city, and you can actually just maybe do cans, or maybe just do canned beans or canned coconut milk. Either way, we're here to kind of help you out with the whole process. Again, my name is Roberto Pérez. I'm actually the founder of the brand Urban Pilón. What is a pilón? A pilón is a mortar and pestle. All around my house, I'm surrounded by mortars and pestles from all around the world. Why a mortar and pestle? Just because I think it's a great symbol of like old school kitchen gadgets. And, I think that that's a great symbol for me because I love like old school recipes. I love restoring like a lot of these things that aren't done anymore. And that's a big part of my work. Also, a big part of my work is nutrition. I think when folks think about either Black and brown foods, they often think that it may be unhealthy. So when I cook, I try my best to stay away from any preservatives. I definitely don't do any artificial colorings or anything like that. I'm going to kind of be an old school kind of chef for you. Also, I do instruction at the Greater Chicago Food Depository for a program called The Front of the House, which deals with customer service, managerial skills that you may need. Also, sometimes I do the knife skills at the Greater Chicago Food Depository. I also work for a mutual aid, which has been going on since the beginning of COVID. This is probably week number 65 for me. The mutual aid is called Farm Food Familia, and we have fed more than 22,000 or made more than 22,000 meals throughout some of the hardest hit neighborhoods in Chicago. If you are interested in any of that and really love that work or want to get involved, please look me up under Urban Pilón on social media. Also, if you have any questions about this, this will not only be on YouTube, but also you can always reach out to me on all the social media networks. Another thing that I do is my own personal Caribbean cooking classes throughout the city, doing events throughout the city, but also I do my own under the umbrella of Urban Pilón, where I'm the instructor and we do different things. The Caribbean is very big, very vast, very diverse. So we just do a lot of different things that you would never see probably in many of the restaurants in Chicago. So without further ado, I think we're gonna start with our recipe. Is that cool? Now, I will say, thank you, Jody. I will say that I love for people to be in the chats, for people if they have any questions, if they want to be interactive. I love that. I love that. If you guys have any questions regarding anything, I would love to help out to see if maybe I could help with your whole process, or if you have any questions about anything that we're doing today. Now, I did do dry beans. I love to do dry beans. It's often called estilo de abuela, ablandar así como abuela, meaning to soften our beans like grandmother did, where she would often clean her beans out, put it in salted water, maybe with an onion and maybe some garlic, maybe a pepper, put it in the refrigerator with a lot of water because those beans are going to dry up and absorb all of that water. Put it overnight and then cook it. And so what I did today was I did last night is I cleaned up some red beans and they're on the stove right now. And I did put some smoked turkey in it. And now it's cooking. You can do that with any type of meat that you like. I like smoked meats. Smoked ham is very, very common, especially in Puerto Rico. In the Spanish Caribbean, of course, one of the symbols or the food symbols of the Spanish Empire was definitely pork. And so that you will see that tendency over and over in different dishes. You see a lot of dishes in the Spanish Caribbean, whether it would be Cuba or the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico or Venezuela, you would see a lot of the dishes, they usually start with pork as a base. And so being in Chicago, you know, a lot of my students are rather diverse and are come from all walks of life. And so I don't like to necessarily sneak pork in my food because sometimes then people can't eat. And unfortunately, you know, I want to be inclusive whenever I'm cooking. So just to let you know, that is going on, but we're going to start with our tembleque today. So if you're super ambitious and you have a young coconut, how do you know a young coconut from an older coconut? Well, usually the young coconut is usually lighter, and that's kind of how you know. Now, you usually notice on your coconuts, there's those 3 holes on your coconuts. And one of them, if you stab them and you try to open it, one of them will open for you. And that is the one where you can get the water from. So I have already found it. And so I believe I've been able to open up my coconut. Let me get something else. And then I'll be able to open it. But I did find already the hole as to where. And also you could also shake your coconut. And if there's water in there, then you know, you see there. And so I want to get this water out. You'll see the water coming out. I want to get this water out before I start working with it. What do I mean by start working with it? I'm going to try to open it. And so usually what you'll need I usually will use a cleaver or the back of a cleaver and a towel, and I'll open that up. But before I start hitting it, I want to get out all of this water. Anybody else doing a fresh coconut today? Anybody else working with fresh coconuts? There it is.
Chef, when I sent out the ingredients list, I especially like that you put a hammer as one of the tools
I did. I sure
and
did.
put a little hammer emoji.
I did.
I was like, yes, we're cooking with a hammer.
Yeah, I remember there was one of my students who she couldn't get her coconut open, and she lived in a condo, and she's like, it was late and I'm hammering in my condo and I'm so embarrassed I had to go outside, and it's February and I'm banging a coconut on the sidewalk in Chicago. That was pretty funny. Yeah, that's what happened to one of my students, but I'm trying to help so that you don't have to go through that. So look at all this water that I've been able, this is about almost about a cup of water that I've been able to get out of this young coconut. So this water here, we can use it. I would suggest maybe getting a strainer so that you don't get any of the coconut residue on there. So we're drying it up. And then so what we'll do is we will use now that it's almost there, and if you're banging on it and there's still water on it, expect that water is going to fly all over your kitchen. So that's not what we want. So okay, so it's nice and dry almost. Yeah, it's almost dry. And so that's a lot of water that came out of that coconut there. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a towel and we're going to put it in our hand like this. Put the coconut there, and then we could use the back of the cleaver and just hit it. And so you see there, it's starting to open up. And so when we open it up, we could take it out, and then we will, we can put this in a blender. So we'll have to then fill up the blender with the water. We could use the water of the coconut. And here we go. And so the idea is then to pry this out. And so I've already done this with another young coconut. And so the idea is then to pry this out, the meat out of the coconut. You could use a knife, and just right there, you could just kind of gently just pry it out. Take your time, because this can be dangerous, you know. Take your time and take this out, and then we'll put this in a blender. What we want to do is cover the coconut with the coconut water. So strain the coconut water, and then we'll blend it, and then that's the coconut that we could use. You could also, another thing that folks do is they'll put this in the oven, and then it'll dry up, and then it'll kind of se va a despegar, or it will separate. So that's another technique that you can use to do that. So, okay, we're going to start to create what we call a tea. So this tea is going to be what's going to really give our tembleque a lot of flavor. What goes in our tea? What goes in our tea is going to be star anise. Star anise. We're going to use about 5 to 7 of them. We'll use of our coconut milk. We're going to use about, I'd say about 3/4 of a cup. And so this is going to go for about 15 minutes. So we can start with 3/4 of a cup of coconut milk. we have 2 sticks of it's hard for me sometimes because I'm thinking in Spanish or
Just say
thinking
it in
English.
Spanish. It's great.
De canela, 2 palitos de canela, right?
Sí.
We also have clavos.
Yes.
We also have cloves. So we'll use about 5 to 7 of them. Also the star anise, and it's all going in there, right? And now this is going to create a tea. Now what we're going to do is we have to cook this for about 15 minutes, okay? So let's get to that.
So Chef, I have a question. If somebody can't hack the coconut real deal, can they use a bag of unsweetened coconut from?
Coconut milk would from the can is perfectly fine.
Okay.
There are some good quality ones out there. My son, who's a vegan, has really told me about he's really when it comes to veganism, he's really active. So he tells me often about some of the companies that are using monkey labor. I swear this is a real thing for the for coconut milk. So just make sure that they have good practices, whoever it is that you're using. And so he's told me of a few of the companies. I think it's a brown can. Honestly, it may be Thai owned. I don't know the name, but I just know that I don't buy it anymore.
But if you do use the coconut milk, that replaces both the coconut water and the coconut meat?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And so we just wanted to go over that just for those who are a little bit more ambitious and want to go, through that process.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's go to the stove top. Now I do have those beans going. I do have those beans in another pot, but I do in here, this is where that tea is. So again, just to recap, what's in the tea? Of the cinnamon, the clavos or the cloves, and the star anise. Any questions, concerns? And so this will go for about, and it's 3/4 cup of coconut milk. And so we are creating the tea at the moment. Also, what we're going to also use in there is some vanilla, also some crema de coco or some coconut cream, and some more coconut milk, as well as cornstarch. And so the cornstarch is going to give it that texture that we want so that it thickens up. And when we put it in the refrigerator, it'll have that trembling type of texture that tembleque has. Anybody here ever had tembleque before? Anybody?
I have.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. You can get tembleque. Let me see, Café Colau in Humboldt Park, also in I think that might be Logan Square. San Juan Bakery is another place where you can get tembleque. Beautiful. Also, we're going to use just a dash of salt, and that's going to bring it out so it doesn't all have that component of sweetness. Gives a little bit of a balance. All right. We want to get this out the way just because this is going to take longer. So we want to get the tembleque out of the way so that when we're done with our rice and we're done with our stew beans, we're gonna be ready to rock and roll with our tembleque. Any questions, concerns? By the way, my stew beans are going And I did use the dry beans, and I also am boiling them right now. I'm trying to boil them with smoked turkey leg. And so I love using smoked meats um, for for my beans. I think it gives a great. I think smokiness gives a great flavor to food. If you're a vegan, a vegetarian, there are some things that you can do to get that smokiness. I think that smoked paprika is a great way to go. I think that's a real nice food enhancer, flavor enhancer. And also I like what Mexicans do with their food, where they utilize a lot of the smoked peppers. And smoked peppers definitely for things like salsas, that'll definitely really help out with your food. Looking at the chat, let's see. All right. Carla, I see
I'm
Carla's
here.
here.
Sorry, I missed what you said. Homework is happening in the corner of the kitchen.
Of course. How are you,
What was
Carla?
that? I'm fine,
Oh,
Chef. How are you?
oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you for volunteering with Chef Fresh.
I did. We had to bake some apple crisp that day, so I got to flex some baking skills. So it was good.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for doing that.
So I have
So,
my pinto beans soaking too. It's my first time cooking them because we don't usually cook that kind in Trinidad. So when you're ready to start the stew peas,
so
let
did
me know.
you're using the dry ones?
Yes, so I bought the dry ones and I soaked them.
Okay, I love it. So what I'm doing with my beans, I have red beans at the moment. And
Yeah.
so I have them boiling in salted water. And I do
Yeah.
have some smoked meat. I do have some smoked turkey, and that's going right now. So
Yeah.
pretty soon after we finish up with our tea here for the tembleque, for the custard, we're gonna move on to our beans.
Lovely.
Lovely. Thank you, Carla. Carla is a great baker. She also makes cross buns, right? Is that right, Carla?
Hot cross buns, yes. Easter time.
Yes, yes, around Easter time, cross buns in Trinidad. Super delicious, super delicious.
I'll send you a link, Jody, when the time comes. I'm still thinking about doing a Trinidadian style fruit cake for this holidays here. So to be determined in my abundance of free time. That's not at all. Say good night. See what I
All
share.
right.
Okay.
So while this is going, we can start building our what you would call the mirepoix, or like our sofrito or our base for our beans. So and this is for those who are doing canned beans. So let's get started on that. So first thing that's gonna go in the pot, we have our pot here, will be some olive oil or any oil of your choice. Just enough to coat the bottom. We'll get that nice and hot. And we're gonna start building our flavors. So in this case, I have an onion here. This is a small onion. I have a pepper here. This is you would call it a Cubano pepper, or maybe a bell pepper will work. Any cooking peppers will work. I have garlic because I really feel that garlic is great with anything. So you see I have a lot of garlic. We're gonna use some of this in our rice, but we'll definitely use this in our beans. We have some dry seasonings. So we have oregano. We have some all-purpose adobo, right? This is actually my stuff there. We have some smoked paprika, and we have some achiote, also ground annatto seeds. So these are going to be reddening agents that are really going to give a really like bright red color to our food. Now this is another ingredient which we can use if you like it. If you don't, that's fine. This is going to give like a nice salty pop to your food. And these are the olives, right? And then you could use a tomato, or you can use tomato paste, or you can also use salsa de tomate, or Spanish style tomato sauce. Okay, so we're gonna start building flavors. This is nice and hot, and here we go. Onion is the first thing that's gonna go in. And we also have some herbs here. This is culantro, or also known as recao. It has different names in different places around the world. Also, if right, Carla, is there shadow benny in Trinidad?
Shadow Benny, yes, that's right.
Shadow benny in
It's from
Trinidad.
it's a French patois. That's a French patois name. It's also
There you go.
bandania in Hindi.
There you go, beautiful. So thank you, Carla. And then also, if you eat pho or you eat Vietnamese food, you will always see culantro, recao, shadow benny in there. So if you go to the Asian markets in Chicago, like the north side, like Argyle Street, you'll find it at the supermarkets there as well. Okay, we're gonna go in now with our peppers.
How much garlic you put in there, chef?
No garlic yet, Carla.
Yeah,
But
put
we
the garlic.
I just put in about a half of a pepper, and I had that diced also.
All right.
So we're just building our base. All we have in there is our oil, our onion, and our peppers.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you.
Beautiful.
Chef, I have a question. Is achiote a flavor or a color or both?
Achiote will have definitely a smokiness to it, but it's known for its natural coloring.
Yeah.
So a lot of big organizations or big companies have really tried to imitate that. And so they use a lot of food colorings. And so there's different food colorings around the world, and achiote is one of the Americas, and it's very popular in the Americas. And so for the indigenous populations, they would often use it to paint their face. So it's also known as the fruit of the lipstick tree. Yeah, and so it was always used for its coloring, and we're gonna use that for its natural coloring. Okay, so now we could go in with our garlic, and I'm gonna use I'd say about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. And I don't usually put my garlic in at first, because what'll happen is that it'll burn. So I like to have the moisture of the onion in there so that it doesn't burn. So just to recap, we have the olive oil, we have the onion, we have the pepper, and we just put the garlic in there. Have that go a little bit. And so those onions are nice and translucent, nice and clear. We want to watch it. We don't want it to go too high. We don't want our garlic to burn. Now is a good time where we could also put some of our recao in there, or some of our herbs. I'm gonna put about 2 or 3 leaves in there. This is kind of almost like a deconstructed sofrito that we're making. We're just putting it one at a time as opposed to just doing it all at the same time. Okay, so we're putting in our herbs now. Mix that up. It should be smelling really nice in your home. And this is where I like to kind of awaken some of these dry ingredients. So instead of just putting it in water, we could kind of toast them. So we're gonna put it in with the foundation, and that way we could toast them in here and kind of awaken these flavorings. So again, we have the achiote, the paprika, the adobo, and we also have oregano here. Now with the oregano, what I like to do is I kind of smash it up a little bit. And what that's doing is kind of releasing some of those oils. And you'll notice that that'll kind of help release some of those flavorings. So, okay, we're going in with our dry ingredients now. And now it should start smelling real nice. This would be the same thing that you would kind of do if you were doing kind of like, let's say you were doing a Caribbean curry, right? You would toast that curry so that then it then infuses into all of your pot. So we're doing the exact same thing. We're just kind of toasting those flavors so that it then infuses our whole pot. So instead of just, we're being tactful. We're being really tactful in our way that we're attacking these stew beans. You see?
So Chef, tell us about your adobo, because there's a lot going on in that mix.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. So my adobo is something that maybe Carla might remember. We used to teach this in class. And so my students, it's always a recipe that I love to share, but it became pretty popular. And then La Criolla, who's one of the bigger spice companies in Chicago, then picked it up, and now it's at the stores. So you may find it at places like Rico Fresh, Armitage Produce, Farm on Ogden, Cermak on North Avenue. Yeah, so thank you, Jody. So we're gonna go in now. You could go in with your salsa de tomate, your Spanish style tomato sauce. Now what you wanna do now is you wanna you're looking for kind of like a brick red. So right now when it goes in, and you're also, this is called deglazing, right? So you added this moisture to this dry pan, and now you're deglazing your pan, and you're going to you're gonna wait until this gets really nice and kind of like a brick brown, like a brick color. Carla, hopefully since you did your dry beans, you're boiling them on the side somewhere. Is that right? You got that going? Okay, great. Love it. Okay, if you have potatoes or you want to add potatoes to your stew beans, you can now. Just because the potatoes will take a while to cook. I cut my potatoes in about 1-inch squares, and you want to cut them all about the same measurement just because you want them to cook the same. So I'm going to put my potatoes in now. Why am I going to put my potatoes in now? I'm going to put them in now because they take a little bit longer. So let's put our potatoes in now. And you also notice the way I stored them, they get oxidized in the air, so they're in water. Same thing with plantains. Plantains will be the exact same thing. So potatoes now, and then we're gonna do the pumpkins later. because the pumpkins, they really don't need a lot of time, but it's gonna really help thicken up our stew beans. Okay, here we go. We're doing really well. We have our
Maestra,
olives.
I have a
Dímelo.
question.
Absolutely.
It's Margarita, your favorite Rican.
Margarita. Oh my goodness, where have you been?
I've been around. I'm waiting for you to start your classes out there again. But anyway, si yo quiero hacerlas con patita.
Con patita, that sounds great. Now, are your patitas raw?
Mis patitas what? Raw?
Are they cooked? The patitas?
No, I would buy them. I mean, si las encuentro, you know.
Yeah, I
col-
like
corta-
that. So what I would do is,
But they sell them dry. Y yo nunca he visto eso en mi mamá cocinándolas con dry patitas.
no. Well, how do you well, you know, they smoked.
Oh,
Patitas,
smoked.
meaning, yeah, smoked would be really nice. And you
But
can
they
do
would not have that. They would not have the texture, normal texture como salivosa. I don't know.
No, you would definitely have to cook them for a long time. We're talking about pork feet.
Pork feet.
Yes. Yeah, pork feet.
Yeah, for the other
patitas. Yes, absolutely. But yeah, you would have to more than likely cook them with the dry beans and cook them for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, cook them for a long time.
Okay, gracias.
Yeah,
Well, would it,
yeah,
if
sure.
do you
Go ahead.
esa la criolla no la venden en Jewel?
La criolla is not at Jules.
No, I never seen them. They have the other one, the other Spanish one.
Okay,
So next
no,
time I'm in
I didn't know.
Chicago, I'll
But
get
what
my
you can do, Margarita, is you can always ask. So what they'll do is then they'll get it. So if there's a product that you want at your store, you know, they usually
Can
want to
I
make
get
their
them from you
customers
online?
happy. Absolutely, you can get it
Can I get them
online.
from you online?
You could.
Okay, está bien, gracias. I won't bother you anymore.
No,
Que
but
Dios
you
te
can-
bendiga.
Igualmente, gracias. But I would say what I'm trying to say, Margarita, is you can always ask Jewel to start carrying it, and that'll help everybody. That'll help you. That'll help us.
Oh, claro. Okay,
You know,
I will.
yeah.
Okay. Have a great holiday.
I know that you would tell them, and you know, and they'll listen.
Yeah.
Everybody listens when you talk, Margarita.
Love you, dude. Take good
Love
care.
you too. Okay, so here we go. We're adding our stew beans, and I need to add a little bit of liquid there because this is a little bit dry. I want to cover everything up, as you can see there. So I had some smoked turkey. Oh, that's gonna be so good. We have not added any salt yet. So of course, the dry beans are going to take a little bit longer. Something like lentils or split peas, it's going to take less time. That's only going to take about a half hour. These might take maybe double the time. Yeah. So okay, and then also the fresh beans, the fresh beans are going to be more firm. They're not going to be as creamy as the canned beans. If you're using canned beans, please, I would suggest you strain them and you rinse them. What do you think, Margarita? You rinse your beans at home?
You know, you know why you ask me that? Because you know that I'm a bad cook.
I do not think you're a bad cook. I really don't.
I have never rinsed them, but I know my auntie does.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, you should rinse them. I think that's just
okay.
So many cooks. That's what
yeah, my husband calls the the beans like you're making today, habichuelas de verdad.
Habichuelas de abuela, right?
No,
Like
habichuelas de
grandmother's.
verdad, because when
Yeah.
I make beans, I use the can. So he likes
So-
the real ones.
So that's what Margarita's husband is saying, that the ones that she makes are not real. But they're real. They're real.
Yeah, they're real. I cook. Hey, if I have to stir it, it's homemade.
There you go. All right. So our beans are going. And as they're going, also now one of the things I would definitely suggest is always taste your food. Always taste your food as you're going. So now once this gets nice and warm, it's a good time just to check it. Again, we haven't added any salt, but things like ham, things like olives, things like even the adobo, things like the smoked turkey, all of those are gonna add to the salt. So I think it's a good idea for us to try it and add it if it's needed.
I have a question, Chef. What-
Absolutely.
When you added your beans, you added your liquid that it was boiling in, right? If we just added like our strained soaked beans or from the can, what liquid you want us to
Yeah.
add? Just some hot water?
So do you have any vegetable stock at home
I
or chicken
mean,
stock? If not, then you may have to add just a little bit more flavoring. You know, that
Yeah.
means just adding a little bit more adobo. If you have
Yeah.
any smoked meat, add a little bit more of your herbs.
a little Angostura bitter.
Mhm. All right, these beans are nice. I'm pretty happy with them now. It needs a little bit of salt, but I'm pretty happy with it. And then I will add the calabaza. And I'm gonna leave that alone. Our tea is done for our tembleque, but we're gonna get to that in a little bit.
Are we gonna put some coconut milk in these beans? Or no?
No, we'll put it in the rice.
Okay,
Everything gets coconut milk except the beans.
okay.
Mhm.
All right, Chef, I have a question
Absolutely.
coming from one of our registration members
Mhm.
saying, thanks for conducting this Caribbean cooking presentation. I'm new to this cuisine. What ingredients make it Caribbean? Beans and rice with coconut, smoky ham and turkey, olives. What particular spices are Caribbean?
That's a great question.
Great question.
I love that question. So they all have their story in the Caribbean. Absolutely. So for example, like the sofrito, some of the flavors like the recao that we had mentioned, or also the culantro, which is like the big bad cousin of cilantro, it's more pungent. And so that's gonna give it that Caribbean flavor. In the Caribbean, it grows like weeds. So that's definitely gonna give that flavor. Also, there's the sweet cooking peppers that is native to the Caribbean.
Chef,
That's
can I get you
another
to come
thing.
a little closer to your mic while you're describing this?
Yeah,
Thank
sorry
you.
about that.
You're fine.
So absolutely the herbs like the recao would be one. The other thing would be the cooking peppers. That would definitely be another one. Another one would actually be the Caribbean pumpkin that we're using. Um, Now red beans would definitely be something that's very popular in places like Puerto Rico, but all types of beans are native to the Caribbean. So there was a big mix of beans that were native to the Caribbean. Also, let's see. I'm thinking about that because that's a great question. You know, coconut is used and is very, very much a big part of the coastal cuisine. But to be honest with you, I think that it comes from um, Iberia or the Spanish Portuguese coast, if I am correct when I'm talking about coconut. But As far as the Afro-Caribbean cuisine, you will see coconut come up over and over and over again. So definitely there are a lot of things that are native, but everything has its story. For example, the olives are something that was very much particular to Spain. And so when it came to the New World, what happened is it was a way for the elite to show their class or their status. And so that's why olives popped up in the recipes. So everything kind of has its story. Tomatoes is something that's native to the Americas also, although you see it a lot in Italian cuisine, but it's actually from the Americas. So everything has its stories.
Maestro, how about achiote?
Achiote is another thing. Yep, achiote is definitely native to the Americas. Yes. Allspice is another thing that's native to the Americas. And we're not using allspice today, but allspice is definitely something that's native to the food. I hope that helped or that answered the question.
Yeah, it did help me, absolutely. And I think that's the reason I enjoy your presentation so much, is because there is that depth to it, and the crossroads aspect of the cuisine is like, you know, there's history in everything you're cooking. And the pumpkin, you're talking about, it's a special kind of pumpkin.
The calabaza, right? It's very similar to what we know as like the winter squash. So what happened often is that, for example, like the peninsula of the Yucatan. So the Indians of the Caribbean, they traveled really, really well. So they were people of the water, people of the sea. So there was so much trade going on that it's also sometimes hard to determine what's from Puerto Rico and what's from Mexico, because people often traveled so much. Actually, you know, you would think of yuca being something very, 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 very Puerto Rican or Dominican or Cuban or, you know, cassava, right? But actually, they say that the word came from the Yucatan. And so there's another great example of the travel and what has happened and the names that food has gotten because of the travel of the Indians of the Caribbean.
So who else besides Carla is cooking tonight? If you do want to just put it in the chat, that'd be awesome. Feel free also to let me know if you've got multiple people watching with you, if you're with your family. We always love to hear about it. Val's cooking, all right. Also, feel free, I sent you guys the ingredients list in an email. Feel free to take a picture and send it to me. I will forward it on to Chef.
So there's absolutely, also there is, we can always find substitutes. If it's hard for you to find one particular thing, we'll help you out.
One thing I was gonna say about this squash, we use calabaza also in Trinidad, and I use butternut squash here because you could get it frozen and diced at the grocery store.
Well,
And so for my stewed beans, I always use butternut squash.
I love it. So Carla, are you saying that in Trinidad also butternut squash or calabaza
No,
is
we
often
use
used?
calabaza. We use calabaza
Okay.
in
Like
Trinidad.
we're
We just
doing
call
here.
it pumpkin. Yeah. But
Yes,
because
yes.
in my neighborhood we can't get to Rico Fresh or whatever. I just go
Mhm.
to Target and get
There you go. It
diced
works. It works. It works.
I was telling Chef that I made the chow recipe twice, And like I said, I just went into my friend's kitchen and took what I could find. It was like, what do I have for spice? What do I have that's like, you know, I chose basil because it was handy.
Yeah.
And it turned out great.
Yeah. I now successfully have recao growing in pots in my yard, which is amazing. But I was using basil and cilantro all the time when I couldn't get that. I have seeds too, if anybody's on the south side and they want them.
That's a big deal, Carla. That's
Hey
a big deal.
Roberto, do you garden?
I do garden now. Cilantro or recao has not been something that I've been very successful in growing. It's always been tough on me. I've even used a greenhouse from a high school, and it still wasn't that easy to do it.
It takes forever to germinate. And if you're like me, impatience is one of my 2 toxic traits. So it took a really long time to get it.
It's amazing. It's really great. Okay, so we have our tea here. This is where we have put 3/4 cup of the coconut milk. We have the cinnamon sticks, we have the star anise, and we have the cloves. Now we're gonna strain this and we're gonna put it in another container. We're gonna strain it because we're just gonna make sure we get a nice clean. So this is going to help us out here as far as our flavor of our tembleque. This is going to give it an amazing flavor. So a lot of the recipes of the Caribbean, you'll see that usually it may start off with making a tea.
So you're saying like just in general or desserts?
Yeah, in general. I mean, that's how I like to start it off, to kind of give really great flavors to my desserts.
So you say you start by making a tea. So like infusing. How are you straining, Chef?
So you could use a cheesecloth, or you could just, I'm just using a little strainer here. Can you see that, Jody?
I sure can. Hey, can you
Okay.
check out Carla? Everybody look at Carla's dish. She's got her point of view camera going. Looks awesome.
Carla, what are you making over there? I can't see. Let's see. Carla, what are you doing over there?
Pintos. These are
Oh, look
pinto
at that. I love it. How beautiful.
Yeah, so we'll see. You see my little bits of recao in there, right?
I would actually suggest putting some at the end also.
I will. That's a great idea. I have
Mhm.
some fresh ones to put at the
Yeah.
end. So I'm gonna do the custard another day because I couldn't do homework and 3 dishes.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Right? It's a lot. Okay, so the
Gracias,
rest.
Elena.
So we have our coconut milk. We have about a cup and a half that we put in there now. This is, so we have our tea that I've put it on the side. I strained it and I have it here. But now we're going to create the tembleque now. So in this, we have the coconut milk. We're going to, I put about a cup and a half in there. What else do I have that I'm gonna put in there? I also have the cream of coconut. We have the vanilla. And we have the cornstarch. Also, before we serve it up and we put it in our containers or in our glasses, I want to taste it. I want to make sure that it's tasty enough. That it's sweet enough. So this crema de coco, or this cream of coconut, actually has a lot of sugar. So you're probably not going to need, and so we're going to go in with a half a cup of the cream of coconut. And we're just gonna move that around with a whisk. I'm gonna whisk that up. Make sure it breaks up really nice. Beating it up. All right. There we go. Coconut milk, cream of coconut. We could also go in with our tea. All right, get all of that in there. We have our vanilla, so we're gonna go in with a teaspoon of the vanilla. And I want to taste it. Now that it's mixed up really nice, I want to see where it's at. It's definitely sweet enough. Yep, it's pretty good. So because it's a dessert, it's sweet, but I think it could be a tad sweeter. So I'm gonna put a touch of the coconut cream in there. Just so that you know, it's nice and flavorful. So this is, you know, that's all. This is what cooking is, right? Is kind of making those adjustments to what it is that you like. So this is kind of what my tembleque looks like.
What kind of temperature do you have the heat on?
I have it at medium. So taste it again. Let's see where it's at. That's it. That's it. Okay, so now is the time where we're going to add the cornstarch. So cornstarch usually, cornstarch is going to be used to thicken it up. So I'm going to use about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, slowly adding it. And as I add it, I'm going to whisk it. So I'm going to add also about 3 tablespoons of cold water. And it's going to be what I'm going to add in there. And this is what's going to thicken up my tembleque, give it that texture that I want. If it doesn't, I'll just need to add maybe 1 or 2 more teaspoons of the cornstarch. Mama,
Dime, negro.
who are you talking to? So the here we go. So it's still a little bit liquidy. I'll need a little bit more cornstarch. And again, that's what cooking's all about, is just making those adjustments. So what's the consistency that we want? We're going to need, we want to make kind of like a runny oatmeal, not a liquidy oatmeal, but a runny oatmeal. And you'll notice it when it starts to thicken up. You don't want it to be so thick that you can't move your whisk, you know, but you do want it to kind of solidify when you put it in its in the container or in its base or in its whatever vessel it is that you're going to use.
Maestro, I have a question. I thought, but isn't tembleque served cold?
It is. That's why we're going to need to put this in the refrigerator. That's why
Okay.
this was the first thing I wanted to work on today. Because, by the end, I wanted everybody to have something like it. You are absolutely right. All right, here we go with a little bit more cornstarch, slowly and whisking. And you start to notice the consistency starts to change and it really starts to thicken up. All right, I'm liking this. I'm liking where we're going. You can kind of see it's definitely a lot thicker now than it was. So for this is about 2 cups of the coconut milk. I used almost about 4 or 5 tablespoons of the cornstarch. So I usually use equal parts water to cornstarch. All right, feeling good about that. So we'll be able to then put this in the vessels. Put this away. Now you can use maybe a martini glass. I was not able to find any martini glasses, so I have these little coconut cups here that I'm going to use. And I'll just put these in the refrigerator. And usually what I'll do is I'll also cover it up with before I serve it with some cinnamon, some powdered cinnamon. Beautiful. And so as it cools, it'll harden. So, Margarita, do you happen to like them licking?
I love tembleque. En arroz con leche y arroz con dulce.
Arroz con dulce.
See, I love that.
Great. Great. I love it too.
Yeah. My mother used to make it.
Probably from scratch, right?
Yes, my goodness. Are you kidding? Everything homemade, everything.
I don't want any of this to go to waste, so I am just putting it all.
So Chef, I have to ask, I know I asked before
Absolutely.
too. What about the
What's that?
cookbook?
Oh, cookbook.
Yes,
Well,
chef, and cookbook.
and Margarita, I think you have asked about this too.
Yes. You could self-publish, dude. You could self-publish now.
So I'm grateful that I do have about 75 recipes written down. that I feel like I feel good about. They're
Oh,
very
you should
unique.
look at Carla, what she's doing.
What is Carla doing?
She's just going like snapping her fingers.
And so,
We ready already?
so I want to show everybody. So these are my tembleques that I'm putting in the refrigerator. And I think that by the time we're done, we might have some nice looking template.
Somebody watching says if you publish it, we'll buy it for the
Exactly.
library.
Grateful. Thank you so much. It's I need to find that balance of life in my life where I can actually sit down and do that.
Yep.
If you follow Chef's social media, you know how busy he is. So I thank you for coming out tonight and cooking for us.
Yeah, no, I'm super grateful. I'm super grateful. So, okay, our beans are going real nice. What's happening is that the calabaza is probably breaking up, but we have the potato there to kind of, to kind of, if it breaks up, we also have potato in there, which potatoes are really good about keeping their dignity, keeping their shape, So, did you guys taste your beans yet? How are your beans? How are your beans, Carla? Have you tasted them yet?
They're good. I just added a little bit more of a seasoning pepper. I put a little bit more of that, and it's good. It's starting to break down nicely. I like when the calabaza melts
Breaks
into it
up,
more.
yeah. That's kind of when you really know, that it's done. Okay, I'm feeling good about that. We have our beans going. Our tembleque is now in the refrigerator, and now it's time for our rice.
Okay,
So
I'm
there's
ready.
there's a lot of different schools about rice, a lot of thoughts about rice. If you were taught by an older person, then usually they will definitely rinse their rice. 'Cause I remember when I was young, rice, every now and then you'd open it up and, not every now and then, but most of the time you would find things like little rocks and things like that in your rice, Am I right?
Expurgar el arroz.
Am I right? Am I right?
Sí, yes.
So that is really no longer the case. What has happened though is that a lot of the nutrients have been taken out of rice because it's so overly processed, so overly done and cleaned really well. So for me today, I don't clean my rice. I don't. So, and there's different, and this is a little pot because it's just me today. This is a little pot. And this is where we're gonna start making our rice. So, okay. First thing that's gonna go in is going to be, and so we're not gonna necessarily go with measurements such as cups or anything like that. What we're going to do is actually eyeball it. Sounds kind of weird, but that's what we're gonna do. And I'll show you how we can do that. In some, and I would say probably half of the population in Puerto Rico, they start with the water. Half of them start with the rice. It's pretty much half and half. It's a split population as far as it's a big debate on what starts first, the rice or the water. In this case, what we're going to do is we'll start with the water because we're also going to use coconut milk. So we have our oil.
You don't use oil?
First. Yeah, we're going to use oil. It's going to be the first thing that's going to go in there. It's going to just coat the bottom. Now we're gonna also add garlic. So the garlic, we're going to kind of gently, we'll put that in there. I put about, in this case, I put about 3 cloves of garlic. Now I want to be kind of gentle with it because I don't want to burn my garlic. Another thing we could add at this point is the salt. I like using big grain salt just because I could see exactly what I'm putting in there. It doesn't flow so easily. Sometimes with the real thin salt, sometimes it kind of gets out of hand and just pours really fast. So
Did you
we're
use
going,
whole garlic cloves or chopped?
they're minced, they're minced. So we're gonna do about half and half coconut milk and half water. So this, in this case, I'm going to go in my pot, I'm going to go about half. So it's half. So if you just use coconut milk, what's gonna happen is that you're going to have sticky rice. So that is why I'm going to do half and half. It's gonna kind of, it's gonna dilute the coconut milk and that stickiness so that your rice is not sticky. This is not necessarily a sweet rice, but what it's going to do is gonna give you really a beautiful type of aromatic. So we have, just to recap, we had the olive oil at the bottom. We put about 2 or 3 cloves. We added some salt. We added half, and I would say it was about 3/4 cup of coconut milk and 3/4 cups of water. Now, in a little while, we also want to taste it. We want to make sure that it's good with its salt. We'll heat it up, make sure, because to this, we're going to add our rice. In addition to the population of Puerto Rico being split with water or rice first, also the island is also split as far as large grain and medium grain. Some people like medium grain, some people like long grain. What do you guys like?
I use long grain.
Okay. See there? I use medium grain. See what I mean? All right, so in this case now, I want to taste it. Tastes pretty good. May need a little touch of salt. So this is part of the process, is adjusting. As home cooks, that's what we got to do. Gotta always adjust so that we don't give our families nasty food. See? So we're gonna bring this to a boil. There's enough liquid in there, nothing's going to burn. And once it gets to a boil, then we could add our rice. Now, one of the tricks that we must be conscious of is that the vapors will be what's going to cook your rice. Therefore, I always cover my rice double. So yeah, there's a lid that's nice and flush, but the old school way was probably with a banana leaf. You know, today we don't have, well, I do have banana leaves actually, but you could use aluminum foil. And once it dries up a little bit, we'll lower the heat and cover it up twice and leave it alone. And that's going to help our rice cook. So that's one thing that's a mistake, a common mistake that people do, is that they do not cover it enough and the vapors escape and your rice just doesn't cook. Any opinions about that?
Not too much stirring either, right?
Yeah, not too much stirring, exactly.
Mhm.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Yeah,
Step
leave it
away
alone.
from the
Step
rice,
away.
Margarita.
So that in the case of the stew beans, the meat is already falling off the bone, so it's on a nice low heat. So our turkey bone here. Okay. So our rice is starting to go, it's starting to boil. We did taste it with salt, just to recap, olive oil. We put garlic in there. We put half coconut milk. We put half water because too much coconut milk would definitely make it sticky. Actually, the way that I learned how to make this rice was actually in Puerto Rico in a town called Loíza. And so that's where I learned how to make coconut rice. Okay, slowly adding the rice. We're going to add it so it's about 1 inch under the water. So in many cases, people will use their finger. And if you see this part of my index finger right here, that line right there, you're not going to put your finger in there, but that's what you would use as a measurement. In Asian cooking and Asian rice, that is also used. And so that's a way to do it and just make it perfect every time. So
That
we're
is
using the
exactly how I
spoon.
learned it. From my
Mhm,
godfather lived in Hong Kong, and they
mhm.
said it's the one knuckle.
See, I'm not making that up. You
It's
see?
really true. No, it was a Chinese thing that he had learned, and that I used it since I was a kid.
My Asian friends do the same thing. See,
Roberto, how about
dímelo.
the spoon thing that if the spoon stands
Yeah,
up?
if the spoon stands
Mira,
up,
qué
well, no,
nice.
it's if it stands up, that's another one. If it's
Yeah.
blurry, that's another one, there's quite a few different techniques that people use. For me, that measurement one of the finger, of that knuckle, of that line on your finger, every time it'll work. I promise you. So we're gonna wait for this to dry up a little bit. We'll wait for it to cook. And as it's boiling and it's in there in that hot water, it's already starting to cook. My beans are looking really nice. I know they taste great. The tembleque is already in the refrigerator. And, we're just working on the rice right now. But remember, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover it up double. So we're gonna use aluminum foil and we're going to use the cover. We're gonna use the top. So once it starts to dry up and you see that there's bubbles coming up between the rice and the bottom of the pot, then it's time to cover it up and lower the heat.
Okay.
Eso tiene sentido. Does that help a little bit?
Para mí ahora sí.
Ahora sí, ahora sí. Now you're gonna
Ahora
make the
sí.
perfect rice every time, Margarita. Every time.
Trataré. La presión está ahí.
Come on. We got this. Okay, so it's drying up. It's cooking. and I am going to cover it up. The old school way again was probably with a banana leaf, but we now have aluminum foil. This is the way I cover it up with the aluminum foil. And I'll show you what I do. Because you want, again, you want to seal it really well, right? You put the aluminum foil down, you put the the top on, and then you use a towel and you pat it down, you go around. You have your heat lowered so that you're not burning your towel. And you know, causing a fire in the house. So now everything has been covered up, and now it's lowered in the heat, and now we're just gonna leave it alone. That's basically it. And so, like, if you believe in like mindful cooking, if you're into that, where you become kind of one with the ingredients and one with your kitchen, then you're gonna be able to smell your rice. When you smell your rice, you know it's good. Just may sound kind of corny, but mindful cooking is a real thing. Just kind of listening, having all your senses open, smelling, watching, and just having all your senses open to your food.
Someone else noticed the pot along with me. What kind of pot is that?
So it would be a Dutch oven pot. Usually now they would call them a Dutchie. That's a name that they're also given. Also they call them calderos or a caldron.
Is it aluminum?
In this case, that one is stainless steel.
Uh-huh.
The cheaper ones are aluminum, and now they make them almost all aluminum. But you could also get them in cast iron. I have a few cast iron ones also.
How is it, like 4 inches across?
This one here is more like 6.
Yeah, it's really cute.
But I have them all. I have them in all sizes. I have the super huge ones also.
And you can put it in the oven, but not the lid.
Yeah, that's what I like about them. You can do that. You can put them also in the oven. Okay, so I want to taste my beans, see where my beans are at. They're delicious. Now, because they're also dry beans, they're a little bit more firm. And the calabaza is starting to break up, but the potatoes are nice. Now you can add an herb at the end just to get like some added aromatics. And that's going to be delicious with your rice. Oh yeah. So you want that sauce to kind of snuggle up to your rice. You know what I mean? Right? Is that right, Margarita?
See, snuggle up to the rice.
Snuggles up to the rice, It's the perfect combination.
Dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Y aguacate on the side.
Yeah. Perfect.
I like it that the rice, that the habichuela está bien espesita.
Yeah, I think because the pumpkin helps, Margarita.
Okay.
I think the pumpkin, as it breaks up, it really helps. And what you can do also, you can also like break up the potato, the calabaza or the pumpkin by smashing it on the side, and it kind of helps thicken it up.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, the only thing that this needs is a little garnishment of some fresh herbs for some added aromatics. And oh yeah. That's gonna be perfect. If anybody is cooking along, I would love, love, love to see what you guys are doing. Share it with us, right, Jody?
Yes, absolutely. Please send me a picture. I will forward it along. If you want, you can tell us, we can post it on social media. If you want to get really
That would
brag
be
about your
beautiful.
culinary success. It looks
Look at that.
so
Look at
nice.
that.
You know, when
Carla.
we first talked about how to lay out the menu for this show, this program, the pumpkin thing really is what stuck in my head. And now it's like, I cannot wait to make this. It's the secret, the calabash.
Calabaza.
Thank you, Calabasa. It really is, though. I can just about imagine it, but I think the spice combination, especially with the other dishes, it must smell amazing in your house right now.
Sure does. Did somebody say they missed the pumpkin and the beans? How much pumpkin is added? So I used about a cup of pumpkin, Karen. Not only that, but the great thing about it is the pumpkin really doesn't need a lot of time. So especially if you're doing the dry beans, then the pumpkin, you can't, it's really hard to overcook dry beans. So you could add it and you'll be fine.
And about the same amount of potato?
Yeah, I added just one potato.
Okay.
And that was towards the beginning because the potato takes a little bit longer, the calabaza. We got to be conscious of like cooking times. So our rice is going, our beans, they're on low now. If you want, also Margarita, if you want, also you want to like thicken up your beans, you remove the lid. So that way
Oh.
it kind of dries up a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And you say you can tell by the smell when the rice is ready?
Rice, yep. Mindful cooking.
But no peeking.
No, 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 don't open it because then the vapors escape. And once those vapors escape, you want those vapors to stay in, and that's why you covered it up with that double lid. It's because you want those vapors to stay in there.
But for
Carla, where are
somebody,
you at now?
oh, so for somebody who's not sure for how long, approximately, how long do you think the rice should cook?
So I have a small pot there. The pot has been going for about 15 minutes. Now I can open it up, move it around, and then, but I don't want more than once. I do not want to mess with it. I don't want to open it up. So let's go back. Let's check on it. I suspect that it does need a little bit more time. I suspect that it does need a little bit more time, but let's check on it. And you'll see when I open it, you'll see the vapors will come out. But because it's a small pot, and it's really hot, and
Oh.
and look at that, it's almost already done. You can
Done.
already see it's almost there. It smells really beautiful. The beautiful thing about the coconut is the aromatics that it gives. Not necessarily it's gonna make it sweet or dessert or anything like that. It's gonna give really great aromatics. So it does need a little bit more time, but there it is. It's looking really nice. And we'll cover it up again, just like we did before. Lid, aluminum foil, then the lid. We'll make sure that it seals really nice. And then I usually use my towel and I make sure that it seals really well. And there it is. And I think, you know, for this little pot right here, I think it's gonna be about 10 more minutes and it's gonna be done. The beans are good. The only thing we'll need to add again is some herbs, some fresh herbs. The tembleque is almost ready to come out of the oven. We're pretty much
The
done.
refrigerator.
Did I say out of the oven? I sure did say out
Yes.
of the oven. No, I did not put the tembleque in the oven. So,
Chef, do you
So,
want to do a little plate up with the rice, or is it too soon?
yeah, it's too soon, but we're almost there. We're almost there.
I think we're close. So
Yeah.
tell the guests, what else have you got going on this week? You're a very busy guy, and it's always interesting to hear what you're working on.
Oh my goodness. So pretty soon I also play music in a band. The band is Bomba con Bulla. And Bulla is going to Spain in a few years, in a few weeks. And this is my first time in Europe. I have always been one to think that, you know, I should spend my money in other places outside of Europe. Europe didn't, you know, and usually in the Caribbean and the Americas. But our band won a MacArthur Award, and that's kind of a big deal. And so we will, you know, we were awarded this trip, and so this is we're gonna do an exchange with a group. What has happened in the world is that after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, a lot of people, a lot of Puerto Ricans dispersed all over the world. And so Puerto Ricans even ended up in Spain. And so there is a group out there that plays the same genre of music, and we're going to do a musical exchange.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
That
you.
is a big deal. That
It
is, it is. So
Amazing.
whereabouts in Spain, and what's the name of the group? And
So my band is called Bomba. That's the genre, Bomba con Bulla. I could write it in the chat.
then what's the name of the artist in Spain?
The artist in Spain is Mancha de Plátano.
Wow.
Mancha de
Very
Plátano.
cool.
Yeah, and so that's gonna be pretty cool. That's gonna
And
be
where
pretty
in
cool.
Spain?
In Barcelona, we'll be in Barcelona. Again, I've never been to Spain, so it'll be a first for me.
Maybe you need
Thank
to
you.
go to Argentina for Toe Milonga.
I've never been to Argentina either. But if you say Margarita I should go, then maybe I should go.
Yeah. Yeah. Show them Argentinians how we reek and roll.
Let's see. What else do I have going on? I have on Fridays I do have a class that I'm doing with the Puerto Rican Culture Center, Segundo Ruiz Belvis, every Friday, with kids from the age of 14 to about 21. And so that's fun because I teach them how to cook. And so by week 4 or 5, you know, they'll really, I see already the improvements that they're making. And I'm also doing the mutual aid every Wednesday, which feeds people, families affected by COVID. So that's usually more than 100 meals every week. And so every now and then I volunteer for the Love Fridge, which the Love Fridge, if you don't know, they put free meals inside refrigerators everywhere around the city. The Love Fridge Chicago. That's an amazing concept for hungry people around our city. And I think, and also I'm the executive chef to La Criolla, which is the spice company in Chicago. So all of these things going on. There's always something.
What does the executive chef for La Criolla do? What are you doing?
What does he do? So like if there are any, new things coming through the pipeline, if there's any new spices coming out, I should taste them. I should approve them. If they're good, I give the thumbs up, we make the adjustments if needed. Also, I'm in charge of their social media. So La Criolla, those are all my pictures and recipes. Also, any new blends that come out on the market, also I help out with that.
So you publish recipes in La Criolla website?
On their social media, I do actually. I do.
Well, I'm
So
gonna have to check those out.
if you haven't already, I'm so shocked that you haven't already.
Well, no,
Margarita.
La Criolla. I just follow Urban Pilón and Obumba Kombuya.
Okay. All right. So, all right, beautiful people, our food is ready to be plated. I'm so excited. So actually what I'm going to do is put a little bit of this fresh recao in my beans. So some of the fresh culantro, right? And I'll put that in my beans. And so the rice is done. The rice is perfectly fluffy. I had no doubt. See there? Perfect every time. It smells beautiful. So it is in the plate, and then I'm going to put the beans around it. There it is. Look at that, Margarita.
Nice.
And with some aguacate, right?
Yes, please. I could lick the screen.
All right. So there we go.
Oh my gosh, looks delicious.
And it's nice and like you said, it really is like a stew. It is really nice and thick.
Espesito, bien nice. Oh my
Really nice
God.
and thick.
I want to see Carla's.
There it is.
Oh Lordy. You are gifted.
My beans are here. Sorry, my phone died a bunch. And then my rice should be just about ready. Well, no, it's still a little wet. I opened it to check when you all were scared.
So here we go with
But
the
Kira
little.
already ate some beans for dinner. She didn't want to wait.
She didn't want to wait.
Right. No.
And so if anybody needs any help, like walking through this or, please let me know and I can help you out.
That looks so nice. I knew you would do a perfect rice thing. There you go. What about in the fridge?
The fridge is our tembleque, and our tembleque should be, yeah, here we go. is our tembleque.
Oh, nice.
So the tembleque, what I would do is now that it's nice and solid, what we can do is just add some, we could add some cinnamon on top. And after our rice and beans, we could have some tembleque.
Look at that.
So, we have our cinnamon, and so the cinnamon, when we put it on, we're gonna sprinkle it from really up high so that it spreads out really nice. You know how Salt Bay does, where it goes up really high with the salt. We're gonna do the same thing with the cinnamon so that it spreads out really nice.
Oh,
I hope that makes sense. We're going up high, you see, so that it doesn't clump down in one place. There we go.
mm,
So there we go. We have our tembleque.
muy bonito.
Fantastic.
Looks great, maestro.
Thank you guys. I'm so grateful for you guys. Thank you for everybody that participated today.
Thank you, Chef.
Carla, Margarita, Jody, I haven't seen you guys in a while. So even though it's just online, I'm still grateful to see you guys.
Yeah,
Great to be with you.
always.
Everything looks delicious, and you're going to Spain. Someone's saying, what instrument do you play? They're asking.
So I sing a little bit, and I also play percussion. So it's heavy.
Palitos.
Yeah, it's heavy on the drums. The music is very heavy on percussion and singing. Everybody in the band sings.
And the
Very cool.
dance.
Very cool. More thank yous and how fun this was.
Oh, I'm really grateful. We'll hopefully do it again.
Oh, we will, definitely. I like all three textures together, the idea of the three textures, and it's 100% comfort food.
Hey, that's right. That's absolutely right.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank
Thank you.
Me voy. Buenas noches. Good night, everybody. It's a joy to watch environment.
Likewise.
And
Likewise.
siempre oro por usted.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much.
Love you guys.
Thanks, everyone.